Hello, and welcome back to Afterglow, episode 109. And in this episode, I am joined by Slaje from the Secret Levels Discord, as we're going to be talking about Illusion of Gaia. This is one I had brought up whenever I was talking with him about games that we might want to cover together. I brought up I had played this one in the past, and he seemed really interested in covering this one. I'm glad he was, because my memories of this one are actually on the dim side. Last time I played this game was probably 25 years ago. And I did beat it, but like I said, my memories of it were pretty hazy. I did play for a few hours for this review, and then I watched some stuff on YouTube just to kind of catch up, because it's a pretty long game. I just didn't have the opportunity to wrap it up, so I definitely wanted to be sure that I had someone who was very familiar with it, and that guy was indeed Slaje. So after we listened to a little bit of music from the game, Slaje will be joining us as we talk about Illusion of Gaia.
In the tradition of Zelda, play Illusion of Gaia on your Super NES. As Tim, you are an unusual hero with special abilities and the power to transform into two great warriors. With the help of a few companions, including Kara, Princess of Edward Castle. Search for 6 mystic dolls. You'll need them to achieve your quest.
So, whenever I brought this game up, you were really wanting to jump on to cover it. So let's just start out with what's your childhood memories of how you first got introduced to the game, and what kind of made you discover it and your first thoughts of it?
Honestly, just a really weird chance encounter of picking it up at a local game shop as a kid and forever getting that first taste of my new drug.
Right on.
I went to where I kept trying to get the same copy over and over again so I wouldn't have my save file erased. So it's like every Friday, I'm begging my parents, hey, can we go to this game shop? I know they have one copy of this cartridge.
Yeah, for me, this is one that I had more or less borrowed from a buddy, and I had it for, I want to say 9 months is what it took me to actually run through it and beat it. And it reminded me, like, somewhat of Legend of Zelda with the kind of like action RPG gameplay.
Very much a Link to the Past, yes. It's very similar.
So the first mechanic that stood out to me, the main character is like one of the only people in the world that has telekinesis. And he's got the abilities of pulling certain stones to him. He's got precog powers to where he can like know what a card is before it's been revealed. Stuff like that.
He can always find the ace of spades and he can move things with his mind, yep.
Which, it's funny, the tricks the game uses to do the precog thing, more or less, your choice, whatever you make, is going to end up being the correct choice, which plays into a later boss fight, which we'll probably talk about here in a little bit. So, after you discovered it, how long did it take you to run through it?
Oh, the first time through on it, I couldn't tell you. It was probably over the course of a summer, constantly hoping that Tom had not rented that cartridge out to the person who beat me there. Because I noticed that every time I printed it, me and another person always seemed to have 2 saved files, and it was basically a competition between he and I of who was going to get the farthest, and thankfully, we were both courteous enough to never erase the other's file.
Oh man, that's awesome, because I can't tell you how many games I rented back in the day, especially RPGs, where I would play as far as I could, and I would rerun it like a month later, and my file is completely gone. I would try to do things like saving the bottom slot, and hopefully whoever ran it would only use the top one, but it didn't work out half the time.
I tried that same trick too. It's always like the, hey, I chose the third slot just to be courteous. Don't erase it. Yeah.
Yeah, it worked like maybe half the time, but I can think of many a time where I get the game back and I'm here like, oh.
Yeah, you'd have the trolls that go through and wipe every file, even though we only needed one, just to spite.
Now this game has an interesting level up mechanic in which you can't grind. There's no grinding in the game at all. The only way to get your stats up is by clearing the room of enemies. And even though the enemies might respawn, the power up for clearing the room doesn't respawn.
Nope, all it'll do is give you a red jewel, and then for every 100 red jewels, you essentially get a respawn, where you'll respawn it about half health.
Yeah, it's a kind of an interesting mechanic, so it kind of keeps you, like, at best, at the power level the game wants you to be at whenever you go in to fight the bosses and whatnot. Some of the bosses can be kind of tricky, because they can take a good chunk of health off whenever you take damage.
Oh, the vampires for sure. That was one of the biggest complaints about this game was the queen in the pyramid and the vampires. You really needed a way to get, I would say, at least 3 more herbs. And definitely 1 more herb before you fight that claw beast, the first major boss you fight.
Yeah, the healing herbs were very, very limited, I thought, in this game. The vampires, for me, was actually a stone wall. Whenever I had attempted another playthrough, I could get to them, but I couldn't beat them because I didn't have enough healing.
Yeah, I mean, it becomes a battle of attrition if you don't really know what you're doing in that.
I even tried watching like a no-hit run on YouTube, and I'm like, I don't know how this guy's dodging this stuff.
I would have to say you'd have to hack the game. I don't know what way to possibly do have that stuff, but no, it did.
Yeah, although after that fight, you have a friend that has a bomb strapped to him, and it makes you choose between cutting a red or blue wire, which is another cool precog thing that he does. It doesn't matter what you choose, it's always correct, but it just puts that little bit of pressure on you.
I know, because you're like, I know from every movie it's cut the red wire.
It's gotta be the red one, right? There was one time whenever as a kid I remember losing this fight because I finally beat the vampires, but I didn't know you had to go up to the bomb.
Yep.
So the vampires were beaten, I'm like, okay, what do I do? And it goes off and I lose. I'm like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. So what was your favorite boss? We've talked about ones we don't like. What about ones that you like?
For the look, the Egyptian princess by far had to be the coolest looking boss. But I think being a kid and still enamored with the newness that was the Super Nintendo at the time, I would say that first boss climbing out of the floor to attack you with the giant hands just brought back vibes of the Contra boss, where that giant robot from the back. Loved anytime they do that, because it wasn't mode 7 that did it. It was just straight up, this is good graphics.
Yeah, that first boss is easily my favorite, where his head, like, just, you see his hands come up first, and then it's almost like he's pulling himself up and out of that hole. You gotta take the hands out to be able to damage the head. I thought that was a really cool effect.
Looks like a gremlin made out of hell.
I did love the effect of that. Now, later on in this game, you get 2 transformations, although the last one you don't really use a whole lot. You've got the first guy who's like a big, bulky knight guy, big sword. Fabio. I think
he's the Dark Knight Freedom, and he's essentially Fabio in armor.
Yep. I think in game he was like Freegan.
Dark Knight Freedom.
And he gives you a much, much better range. He doesn't have all the abilities that Will has, though. He's more or less your, how do I put it? Like your melee guy. If you're going in mainly for fighting, you use him.
He's got a higher defense, higher attack stats, and longer reach.
Yeah, and honestly, I enjoyed playing this as him a lot more than I did the puzzle solving with Will. Like, am I in the minority on that?
No, I think all of us like that, because, I mean, you look at the sprite work on Freedom, I'm sorry, the guy just exudes that era of total badass video game character. He's got the cool chiseled armor, the guy's built like a tank, the long flowing hair, the cool badass sword. he was what just about all of us video game players wanted to be at that time when we were in games.
Yeah, and just like from a gameplay perspective, for some reason, and this could just be, me, big dumb guy, me enjoy hit thing more than use brain, but I thought that the gameplay with Freegan was better than the gameplay with Will whenever you were using him to just go through and, attack and clear out rooms and whatnot. Some of the puzzles, like, once you know the room layout, it's not much of a puzzle. The puzzle is actually remembering the map layout.
A lot of the time, yes, especially the Sky Garden, because it was so easy to get lost and turned around in there, and you just, that and the Land of Moo, because both those maps, you get to a point where you just want to be done.
Yeah, Moo was like that for me. I wish I could just hit, like, the select button and pull up a map of the area. That being said, it doesn't really damage the game a whole lot just because it is so much fun just to go through and clear out rooms of monsters and whatnot. And the boss fights are usually pretty fun too.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
they're pretty good.
I was researching the history of Quintet on this, and it's funny because the game company is kind of a mystery in themselves, which they disappeared in like 2008. But they're not officially shut down?
Yeah, which is sad because they made some good games, and there's some fan-translated versions of their games, but no official releases. I'm sorry, I'd happily drop 120 on an English-translated version of all these unofficial trilogy and quintets they've got of this, because all these games are good games.
Yeah, if we didn't bring it up earlier, Illusion of Gaia is the middle child in a quintet trilogy that also includes Soul Blazer and Terranigma. I think Illusion of Gaia might have been like the biggest one here in America, although all three of these I think did really well in Japan and Europe.
Terranigma is, I think, the biggest shining star out of the group, but Illusion of Gaia was the only one that got attention because it was the only one that got a States release.
Right. But like I said, I borrowed it and I had fun with it. Like, I was a big RPG guy in the 16-bit era anyway. It was nice to find an action RPG that wasn't Zelda, but still, like, well put together. There is a little bit of a treasure hunt in here, too, which you can miss very, very easily. But you can collect jewels for a bonus fight.
Yes, the 50 red jewels in the game, and some of those things are just so obscure, and some of the things you have to do are so obscure, and there's at least 10 jewels that I think if you miss them, they're just gone. They're done. You cannot go back and get them.
Yeah, that was one of my gripes, was the fact that you couldn't backtrack to get those, which I get why. For storyline purposes, it makes sense. So I get it.
And the fact that they were invisible is another big thing. I think what they ought to do, if they do a re-release, the ones you could find in world, kind of make them glint like the tabs you would find in Chrono Trigger, just like a little red glint. That way it doesn't remove the puzzle aspect of the other ones by just handing them to you.
Yeah, that would help a bit, because there's that one, like, at the very beginning of the game. I think it's in, like, a bell tower or something. And if you miss it at the very beginning of the game, there's no way you can ever collect them all.
That very first row of barrels, if you walk by and miss that in the, I think, castle dungeon, you just permanently lost your chance to get all of them.
Right, and the reward is pretty cool, too, because you fight the end boss from Soul Blazer with an entire bonus dungeon around them if you collect them all. So it's worth it.
The other bad thing is I would often get stuck in a deadlock on that game where you fight that secret boss, you're burning all your herbs, so then you go to fight the end boss, and you've got to have a perfect run because you've used all your herbs on the extra Easter egg boss.
Yeah, and the end boss, I feel like you get the third character not right when you get to the end boss, but towards, like, let's say the back third of the game or so. But you get his final power-up in that final dungeon, and the only real thing you ever use it on is that final boss, which gives you, like, an across-the-screen attack, I guess you call it.
You become the Phoenix Shadow and you get to shoot a Firebird.
Yeah, and for the final boss, there's a lot of dodging involved, where your third character can kind of morph into the ground almost, and you have to dodge a lot in that final one. He looks really cool because he's got this blue and green plasma look to him almost. It's like you're controlling. Oh, go ahead.
It's just a little person on fire, and it's cool looking. I mean, it's something straight out of what Akira Toriyama would with Dragon Ball. I mean, it's a plasma flame being that can turn into water once you use his brain.
Yeah, it's like definitely something you want to play as whenever you unlock it. Although for a good chunk of the game, you need to go back to Freegan because he's just got that higher attack value than even that third character has.
Yeah, because they've all got stats. It's just they're never blatant until you look at what the way the hit points go. Like Freegan is your tank outright. Shadow has got just a bit more attack than Will, but he's got a bit less speed. But he's not quite as slow as Freegan.
So we did jump to the boss, but before that, like I said, the game story can be a little different at times, and I think you said that was due to the translation. But it does have some shocking moments that you didn't see a lot in the Super Nintendo era.
You light a dude on fire and watch him burn in front of you as he crawls. I mean, you're seeing that and you're going, whoa!
There's a moment with some cannibals that are planning on eating you, to where you have a crew with you almost. And in this case, you've got a princess with you, and her pet pig jumps in the fire, sacrificing itself. That way, the cannibals don't eat you.
And then Eric's like, poor sweet Hamlet, to eat or not to eat. And I'm like, Woolsey, dude, why?
I love the fact that they took the time to make a little cooked pig sprite too.
They did. The attention to detail on a lot of the sprites, especially like their hair, because Freedom's hair constantly flowing in the wind, and Will's hair being used for puzzles and stuff. It was so well done and beautiful sprite work for the time.
Yeah, this is easily one of the prettiest games for the Super Nintendo when it comes to RPGs, and especially if you were checking out like the Dragon Warrior, Dragon Quest games on the Famicom. The graphics in this blew the Dragon Quest games out of the water.
And the music complements it so well too. It is beautifully orchestrated retro music.
Yeah, and the music is very ambient as well. It goes along with the storyline, which feels really, I guess, dystopian in a way. And the music is always putting you in that, God, I don't even know how to put it, but it's dark, I guess is the word I want to say.
A lot of times, yes, it is very much that you feel the moment and the weight of every situation.
Like, there is one moment that has a bunch of characters on the raft, and you guys are literally having to do Russian roulette with a poisoned chalice.
Yeah, that whole scene, oh man. Yeah, that Russian roulette game, that's a really dark moment, a game full of the dark moments. I mean, you've got a kid committing suicide to save you. You've got a guy that his son drinking a glass of poison because he's dying of like cancer or something. You're on a raft in the middle of the water and you're starving.
Yeah, it takes on a lot of moments that you don't typically see gaming trying to take on. Like, a lot of people talk about Final Fantasy VI with the attempted suicide of Celeste in that game, and I want to say this game came out before that.
I want to say yes. I don't know if it was just came out here before that, or...
I'm Googling real quick. I want to... Yeah, it came out the year before, 93, which Final Fantasy VI was 94. And like I said, this game took on those themes way before people talked about the Final Fantasy VI suicide thing.
And it's weird because going back to the whole moment where you reveal Neil's parents are dead, it's like the only death in the game where it's like, okay, next. It's the only death in the game where they just sweep it by, you know?
It's like, well, here we go. Speaking of this game versus some of the other classics, this one is fairly affordable if you want to replay it these days. I'm seeing right now on eBay, it's like $30 shipped roughly, maybe 35 if you want to grab just a card-only version of it.
Yeah, I think I got my loose copy for like $20 several years back. It's on my shelf because one of my pride and joys.
And then the the Famicom version, Gaia Gensoki, I think is how you pronounce it, really cheap. I'm seeing it for like $20 shipped in some cases.
Yeah, it's a lot of value for your money. Definitely recommend give us at least a playthrough.
The only bummer is that eBay thing where you're buying the carts. That's really the only way of getting a hold of it, is getting that original Super Nintendo version. I can't think of any time since it's been re-released anywhere.
No, it really needs to, because I mean, you take some of these themes and some of these moments, you update them, not with like the greatest graphics. I still stays true to the retro part of it, but like fix a lot of the translation issues, put in the missed content, expand out the storylines, maybe possibly cut the rap scene a little short, because part of that could be a cut scene, but I get that they wanted you to interact with it too.
Now, if you do grab a copy, we would also recommend checking out some of the translation patches and then emulating it that way, because it looks like there is a recent translation patch. I'm looking at one that was done here in 2024. Has an improved script, enhanced game performance. Apparently, there is even a demo available on GitHub. So, you've played through the translated or the Japanese version too, correct?
I wanted to try the Japanese version. I briefly got to check it out. I was at some place and I got to check out just a brief, like 10, 20 minutes of it. But my memory of that's very fuzzy. It's mostly just, I remember playing this game since like 10 years of age into now.
Yeah, that's the thing with me on the main game, is that I played it, I want to say, 25, 30 years ago. I did attempt a replay maybe 10 years back, and that's when I got to the vampire wall for me, where I just could not get past it. But I did beat it as a kid. So, probably a favorite moment. What would be your favorite moment?
Oh, favorite moment. Gosh. That is so hard to do. I don't know. I guess the conclusion of the storyline, as cheesy as it is, it's pretty cool how you've had the ring the entire time, and you wind up just going from this kid who has this weird ability given by a comet to where suddenly you're going to morph into an ethereal being and destroy a comet, only to realize you've now saved everything, and once you remove the comet, time resets and you wind up going back to your regular life, completely losing all memory of what happened.
Yeah, that was a moment that I thought was cool too, because throughout playing the game, there's many Earth landmarks in it. Like we mentioned the pyramids; those are actually supposed to be the Great Pyramids. There's the Great Wall of China. There's I can't think of the name of it. The lines, the Incan plain lines, I think might be the name of it.
Yep, the Inca plains. There's the constellation Cygnus. Oh gosh, I'm trying to think. It's that first place where the first time you fight the big muscular dudes with the reptilian snake head that stretch out at you, and I know it's a historical site too. But yeah, and you kind of wonder, none of these places are where they're supposed to be, and you realize why.
Yeah, and even the main items you're collecting, the 6 stone statue things, those have like an Incan look to them too, in my opinion.
Yes, I think that was a big part of it. I almost wonder if they were considering like the Mayan calendar somewhere in this.
Right. Because, like, my favorite moment was probably at the ending, whenever the world transforms to a real-world Earth, and it's like, okay, that almost kind of explains all the real-world landmarks on the game map.
Oh, another weird thing was when they decide they're going to show Will a vision of what the world looks like. I got such a flashback to Sin City, because that's exactly what it looked like.
Yep. it did kind of have that vibe to it for sure. But yeah, if you have not played this game, it's definitely worth picking up. And again, $30 for a nice in-depth RPG, that's a pretty good price in my opinion.
Yeah, especially with all the content in it. And yeah, a lot of the content's been cut, but it's still a worthwhile story. Definitely go through and Google what you're missing during each time, it definitely adds to the flavor of each moment. And some of the darker themes and more serious tone of the game are really good.
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, I feel like it goes over situations that you don't see a lot in that era.
I don't think a lot of them have ever really been done until you got to current era.
And again, if you like Zelda, I think this is a good pick. If you've played the heck out of Link to the Past and you know that game front to back, this is a good one to kind of branch out with.
Oh, very much similar dungeon layout too. I like it. Even as annoying as Blue and Sky Garden are, they're very, very similar to a Zelda dungeon.
With the graphics probably being a step up.
Yes.
And of course, if you like this one, there's the entire trilogy. Quintet also made ActRaiser. If you're looking for a game that they did that maybe had a bit more success on the Super Nintendo, I think ActRaiser might have been the biggest game that they put out in that era.
I've got to play that. I eventually got to find a way to play that.
Surprisingly enough, ActRaiser did get re-released recently. It got a upgrade version, which is on Steam right now. It's like $15 on there. The only issue I have with it is that they added a third game mode on top of the side-scrolling action and then the overhead SimCity stuff. They added like a tactical overhead combat mode, which I did not care much for.
That does not sound like it would fit.
I mean, if you took that out of the game, the remake, it looks beautiful and it plays the same. It's just that they added those that third mode, and it kind of just doesn't go with it. But at least the game is able to still be played to this day.
Right. One of them, I would guess it probably feels as shoehorned as it is.
Right. And if you had maybe played the new version without playing the old version, it might not bother you as much as it bothered me.
Gotcha.
Oh, it is 15 on Steam on sale right now. It is normally 30. All right.
Really not bad.
But again, it's, I like the fact that it's still available and to be purchased and whatnot. Although it does make me wonder where the money's going from that, because Quintet, like, are they making anything off of it? Is it only Square Enix? Like, I have no clue.
Yeah, that's a big wonder with the way these companies sometimes get quietly absorbed. You don't even realize, okay, it's now part of this entity, and we have to prove how or why or when.
Yep, and that would be another rabbit hole to go down, is just what happened to Quintet, because they were active all the way through the 2000s, and then they just completely disappeared, and they had a decent selection of games come out to that point.
They did, and if they're under like the umbrella of Square Enix or something, Square's getting to where they're bringing back a lot of the old classics, like the pixel remasters of Final Fantasy. Those just about printed money. Go back into your retro catalogs, give us updated versions of a lot of these games. Do not add needless stuff, because you and I were talking about the Secret of Mana. They fixed one problem with the game, and then they added so much stuff that made it worse.
Mm-hmm. And kind of like the same thing they did with ActRaiser Renaissance. A remake done right, in my opinion, would probably be Star Ocean 2. That remake that came out last year, they did fantastic on that. But yeah, this is like one they could do nothing to, just package the ROMs in the launcher for the Soul Blazer trilogy and throw them on Steam, and it would sell like hotcakes, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, retro collections are big. I think all of us own like the Contra collection. We all own like the Castlevania collection. We love these retro collections if they're done right. Especially on games where you had like a battery state where always where your file gets messed up, or add like a museum or stuff. I loved, as much as I hated the loadings with the Chrono Trigger remake on PlayStation, I loved the addition of the gallery that we had.
Yeah, it was really good. The DS version of that is still to me like the best release of Chrono Trigger, just because you had the cutscenes, you had the gallery, but you didn't have the loading times.
Yeah, and using his Luminaire attack and having it where it didn't coincide with the sound effect just hurt.
Right. But yeah, like if Quintet is somehow still around to this day, good God, if they would just package those games up in the launcher and throw them on Steam, that would possibly bring them back to game development for the amount of money it would bring in.
And you usually grab them by the shirt collar and go, "What's wrong with you? Do you not like money?"
Right. If they're not around, whoever has the rights to those games, I have no clue why that hasn't happened yet. Because, again, they're not talked about a whole lot to this day, but they do have a pretty big cult following. And if they came out on a modern day system setup, I feel like it would print money.
Yeah, because a lot of these games that are kind of hidden under the radar, you don't even need a big marketing campaign behind. We'll sell the games for you by word of mouth alone.
Yeah, easily. Like, it's just money sitting there waiting to be made. I don't know why it hasn't been done. But before we close this out, do you have any final thoughts or anything?
No, just definitely give this a run, especially if you like games like A Link of the Past, Secret of Evermore, Secret of Mana. This is very good, and the balancing of the way you level up keeps it to where the game maintains some difficulty, but you can always endure, and you're not like banging your head against a wall, with the exception of a boss or so, to where you just 3 or 4 more herbs added into the game, or a way to just purchase them somehow would be a saving grace.
And it is a modern era too. Nothing's stopping you from emulating it. And if you were to want to use save states to get through that instead, or even if you want to load up some Game Genie cheats, I don't think anyone would blame you for loading up a few extra herbs or something.
Honestly, that's something we kind of need, is a modern day Game Genie method in games. That's, that like I've done this. Heck with mods. Let me boot up the old school Game Genie codes and play that way.
Yeah, that would help quite a bit. And that would be a good extra for re-release too. It's like, hey, you think the game's too hard? Here's some save states. Here's some cheats that you can turn on and off at will. Have fun.
Yeah, and the options menu. 20 extra herbs for the game. Great. Indicator for red jewels. Great.
Yep, just minor tweaks, but again, the game does stand on its own for sure.
Oh, and one thing I've got to mention, this is my favorite ridiculous thing, is The Legend of Zelda has its immortal sounds to where when you get an item, but the fanfare for key items in this game is so wonderful and so audacious, but I love how the first time you hear it is when you find nothing but this piece of meat in a barrel in the dungeon, and the way this text crawls and the description of this thing just takes forever. It's like you have this huge fanfare ovation for you finding a yummy roasted leg of yak, and it just takes forever to go through this.
Yeah, I think it does that thing, if I remember right, where it slowly brings up like one character at a time.
Yes, and it's like, okay, you have a roast yummy. It's just all these extra characters that didn't need to be there.
that was a fun moment. But if you're looking for more with Slaje, he has been on another episode of Afterglow with me. And he is also in the Secret Levels Discord. This is if you want to drop in and say hi.
And if luck goes my way, I will actually have a book out and published if I can find somebody to publish it. I've got a book series I'm working on, currently on about chapter 8 of book 2, and it should be a 5-book series.
Oh, that's cool. Do you want to tell the listeners more about that real quick?
Basically, it's set in modern times, but the Greek gods are still around. It is similar to like Percy Jackson, the Olympians, but it takes a different turn. And you have a CEO that winds up getting caught up in a game of the gods, to where the very fate of the world is kind of hanging in the balance. I've got it to where it's very well written for a female character to stand out, kind of break the cliches. The game is very LGBTQ friendly. It's got a lot of progressive thoughts into it, updated thinking. It doesn't go back to the old stereotypes, cliches, and tropes. It's a very different take on almost everything. And history and religion all basically get rewritten in this book. And it takes a lot of things and just it turns them on their head. Yet it is so grounded in reality, using real world places, real world events. So I honestly, I guess it would mirror Illusion of Gaia. Come to think of it, because it has real world things, but they're just done in a different way.
That sounds cool. So, if you're listening and if you want updates in that project, it looks like the Secret Levels Discord would be one of the places to go to find updates on that. It sounds like it's a lot better than that episode of Star Trek where Apollo grabbed the Enterprise with his giant green hand, right?
Yes.
Simple and succinct, yes. So be sure to check into the Secret Levels Discord for updates on that book series. It sounds like you said you've pretty well got book one written and it's shopping around the publishers, and you're working on book 2, right?
Yes, book 1 is absolutely done through and through. I'm just wanting to get it published. Then I'm going to go through, get a hold of the people that I've already got agreements with. They were going to happy to read it. Shout out to Jenny Bean. She was more than happy to be one of my people to read it and review it. I've got 2 or 3 other people that are wanting to get a copy to do reviews. So hopefully that helps with the word of mouth. Once I get the publisher agreement, I'm going to go ahead and set up a website and everything and just try to make a franchise out of this without blowing it up to the point of it so saturated people are sick of it. It's just going to get the moderate exposure it needs and not be an in-your-face thing.
Right on. Well, whenever it comes out, be sure to come back on the show too. That way we can get you some more advertising here. No, admittedly, we have a small listener base, but there could be some crossover.
Hey, the small listener base is good. That's just fewer autographs I have to do for handouts and gifts, saying, "Hey, thanks. Here, read this."
You're signing them in blood, right?
I could, honestly. It would be a good touch.
That would be awesome. All right, so be sure to check out Secret Levels Discord for updates on that book. And other than that, I think that covers everything for Illusion of Gaia that we have. Am I wrong on that? Is there anything else?
No, we're good. No cut content here. I think we covered what we needed to.
All right. Well, thank you for listening. And this is a new thing that I've been trying to do when I remember, when I have a guest on. What do you want the outro music track to be?
I've always, oh gosh, I'm glad you mentioned it. I love the whistling tune for the overworld map because it is just such a mellow, relaxing tune.
All right, so we are going to get ready to roll our outro with that track.
As always, thank you for listening to another episode of Afterglow. If you're looking for more podcast goodness, be sure to check out our show notes where you will find a link tree. The link tree has links to many friends of the show, including Bad Secret Media, Grimglow, the other show I do with the Lost and Gone podcast, Retro Gaming Roundup, the Retro Hangover podcast, the Main Quest podcast, the Reviews Brothers, and the Superpod Network. On top of that, you can find other goodies for Afterglow, like our Discord, if you'd like to join in, chat with some of the other friends of the show, say hello. You can also check out the Patreon. Every once in a while I'll post a news item there, and you can also support the show for just $1 a month to get a shout out at the end of every episode. You'll also find links to the YouTube and to Spotify if you'd like different places to listen to the show at, as well as the merch store if you want to support the show by grabbing yourself a sticker, magnet, or t-shirt. As always, special shout out to TobyVonDoom from Secret Levels for doing the show logo, and from Grim from the Lost and Gone podcast, who does our intro and outro music. And if you would like to stay tuned, there are some other friends of the show who would like to talk about their shows that they would love for you to listen to.
Hello. My name is Aaron. I'm one half of Superpod Saga, a topical variety video game podcast fueled entirely by nostalgia and unleaded gasoline. Superpod Saga, we discuss a different video game topic each and every week. We have new episodes every single Monday covering a different video game topic. More than anything, we want to entertain our listeners and make you feel like you're one of the boys, like you're hanging out at a campfire with some of your best zany, caffeine-powered buddies and just talking about your favorite games and all that stuff. Stop on down to Superpod Saga. It's on every podcatcher there is. If it's not, let me know and we'll get on it. Again, Superpod Saga, stop on by.
Afterglow listeners, it's me, Keith Gasper, coming at you from the #1 retro gaming podcast, the Main Quest podcast. Come hang out as a guest and I play and discuss a game from the backlog of my childhood. We're talking about our history and the history of the game, and if it's worth checking out today. We're talking about games from the NES, the Sega Genesis, TurboGrafx, Game Boy, and much more. And that's just on the main feed. If you enjoy what you're hearing on Afterglow, you're going to enjoy the Main Quest, and I'm happy to have you. Find the Main Quest on Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, Spotify, and wherever great podcasts are downloaded.
Hello and welcome to the Reviews Brothers. It's me, Martin, and you can join me on YouTube where I have hundreds of videos covering a huge range of video game topics. I've got top 10s, hidden gems, console-focused A to Zs, as well as dedicated videos to topics like Doom mods, 3D platform games, ninja games, pirate games, and more. I cover all systems from Commodore 64 right up to modern consoles. Nothing gaming is off the table. So be sure to search for the Reviews Brothers on YouTube as well as on Instagram and TikTok for hundreds of retro and modern video game reviews.
For more than 15 years, Retro Gaming Roundup has been the centre of your retro gaming universe, with top 10s, interviews, game reviews, news, and much more from all over the globe. Be sure to tune in every month for a new dose of Retro Gaming Roundup. That's RetroGamingRoundup.com.
Hey, this is Toby, one half of the Secret Levels podcast. We're a podcast that goes over old retro games. We go over the history, the story, the gameplay, some fun facts. We even rage a little bit. And then we go and give it a nice 1 to 10 rating to let you know if it's still worth playing. We have over 200 reviews for games on the NES, the Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, and many other consoles. You can find us on all the major podcasting apps, such as Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and you can follow us on social media at Secret Levels Pod. Game over, folks.